All right, so I thought it might be good for us to start off talking a bit about AI concepts, because there are a number of different concepts in AI. So looking at the current state of artificial intelligence, much AI is based on large language models, LLMs. So, GPTX and BERT, these are examples of this. They're trained on vast amounts of text data. They can understand human language. They're used for content generation, translation, summarization, classification, questions and answers, all sorts of things. And then sort of sitting on top of that is generative AI, such as ChatGPT and Midjourney. They use the large language models as an underlying tech, and then they train and fine tune with more data to create original content, such as text, images, and videos. And then there are other applications as well that are based on LLMs, which include language translation, sentiment analysis, information discovery. And then output of the generative AI would be AI generated content. This could be text, images, music, video, etc. And then so each of these systems are designed to perform a narrow range of tasks. And I guess what the future is of AI, or what the designers and developers of AI are working on, is a general system of artificial intelligence. This would be a type of AI that possesses a general intelligence, which is similar to human intelligence. So we're certainly not there yet, but the term definition on to right is just on the left, is to describe where we are at the moment. So AI is already used really pretty broadly in scholarly publishing. Researchers are using it for information discovery. There are a number of code generation, AI-based code generation programs out there. It's being used in data analysis. Tableau, for instance, is a very well-known data analysis program that's based on artificial intelligence. It's used for project management, is used to assist in writing and image generation as well. On the publisher side, or you could say, the journal or society side, AI is being used in screening tools. It's certainly being used in our plagiarism check tools. There are some auto tagging applications that are AI based. There are AI tools out there that are used to make journal recommendations, which journal you should submit your manuscript to, reviewer suggestions, a number of different programs that are AI based to provide reviewer suggestions. And it's also used in the copy editing and composition process. So it's used pretty extensively, really, in scholarly publishing already. So what has been really controversial this year is the use of generative AI, right? So I have a slide here that focuses a little bit on what's happened with that this year. So ChatGPT, we all know about it. It's the fastest growing app in history. So within 2 months, ChatGPT had reached 100 million users, compared to 42 months it took for WhatsApp to reach the same milestone. And since the debut of ChatGPT, big tech companies are now already integrating generative AI and LLMs into their existing commercial products to improve collaboration and productivity for users. So this examples include Google Workspace, including Gmail, Docs, Slides, Google Meet, the Microsoft 365 Copilot, including Word, PowerPoint, and Outlook, various other commercial applications. So, here's a screenshot from Microsoft Copilot, and the link right there, Polish My Writing. So this is now integrated into the tools that a lot of our that authors and researchers are using. There are also some domain-specific AI models that have been created. They're starting to emerge. One example is the Biomed LM. This is a domain-specific large language model which is trained to interpret biomedical text. And this was created as a partnership between Mosaic ML and the Stanford Center for Research on Foundation Models. And it achieves state-of-the-art results on medical question and answer text. So it's, you know, a medical researcher or a doctor even could type a medical question into this domain specific model. It pulls in information from PubMed and receive answers that basically match the answer key on the US medical licensing exam. There are also a lot of task-specific GPT tools that have been created recently. So by combining ChatGPT with its ability to create human-like text with other specific tools that have been developed over recent years, more specific tests can be performed. So ChatGPT plus Wolfram Alpha can be used for precise computation. ChatGPT plus Midjourney for image creation, ChatGPT plus Gen 2 for text to video. So these tools can facilitate research by speeding up time-consuming tasks or auto-generating images and videos from text. But they've now also started to raise concerns about research integrity, such as altering images and data to create fake text or videos. So with those concerns, journals and societies and publishers have started to ask, what can we use to detect AI? So on July 20th of this year, so OpenAI, which is a parent company of ChatGPT, had created a Gen AI detection tool called AI Classifier, but they basically discontinued it in July of this year. And there was a statement on their website, and it said, as of July 20th, the AI classifier is no longer available due to its low rate of accuracy. We're working to incorporate feedback and are currently researching more effective techniques. In the second statement further down on the website, they basically said that in their evaluations on a challenge set, their classifier correctly and identifies 26% of AI written text as likely AI written, while incorrectly labeling human written text as AI written 9% of the time. Those are false positives. And so, you know, this is just as of July this year. It's October now. Obviously, this is technology that's going to continue to evolve over time. But, you know, in the discussions that have been happening throughout this year at various conferences, webinars, things like that, it's really being described as kind of an arms race, and people are unsure if we're really going to be able to accurately detect AI generated text, at least. Turnitin has a tool which is being widely used right now. They launched their AI detection tool in April 2023. And Turnitin is the company that owns Authenticate. So Turnitin is directed at the school audience, educational audience for students in high school and colleges and universities, whereas Authenticate is aimed towards scholarly publishing. So Turnitin, they claim to be able to detect the presence of AI writing with confidence. In May, of this year, they started to provide caveats for their tool. They said the results need to be taken with a grain of salt due to what they claimed was a 1% false positive rate. But a number of news agencies tested their tool and have found higher false positive rates. And now in the late summer and the fall, a number of universities that had all signed on to using the Turnitin AI detection tool have stopped using it because they are getting false positives, and they had been sort of failing students based on the results of this tool. And as they started to analyze the numbers, realized that these false positives were going to correlate to thousands of false positives of turned in assignments across universities. And even if it's a relatively small rate, they cannot take the risk of having academic consequences for their students when these tools have false positives. Authenticate, for their part, they are working on an AI detection tool for journal workflows. It's still in development. They have not released it yet. This is also something that's been talked about on webinars and at various conferences this year. And, you know, I don't think we have a timeline necessarily of when it will come out, but based on the issues with Turnitin, I think we can probably assume that no matter what, there is going to be some false positive rate. And so whatever AI detection tools we might have access to, they're going to have to be used, if they are, with the understanding that they can mark things as AI generated when they really haven't been. So, of course, this year, I think most of this audience will be familiar with the fact that many of the publishers came out with policies against using generative AI this year. So Wiley, Elsevier, and Springer, as well as many individual journals, have amended their policies to explicitly ban ChatGPT as an article co-author. Nature recently stated they will not publish images or videos that were created using generative AI, and I would imagine other journals are sort of joining in on that as well. And then also separately from those two areas, the next area is peer review. So journals have now started also to come out with policies to ban the use of ChatGPT to assist with peer review. And peer review is a little bit different than the first two cases. Authorship, this is prior to submission to the journal. So it's a question of whether it's ethically appropriate for an author to use generative AI. But once a manuscript has been submitted to a journal, then it is the responsibility of the journal to keep that manuscript confidential. And what started happening this year is that peer reviewers were starting to talk about the fact that they were using generative AI to assist them in their peer reviews. So NIH has come out with a really specific ban, and many journals have started to address this, because this would be a breach of the data protection policies if journals were to, submit unpublished data to these big databases like ChatGPT. So with that said, there also have been some evolving sentiments, I guess you could say, regarding the use of generative AI. At the Council of Science Editors annual meeting in May of this year, there was a session titled Generative AI, the Promise and Peril for Scientific Publishing. And it did express some views that are a little different than what the dominant views are regarding generative AI. So one point that was made is that AI-assisted writing levels the playing field for scholars whose first language is not English, and they can use it for translation, editing, drafting, abstracts, and practicing writing. Another point that was made is that AI tools are becoming so ubiquitous and even incorporated into common tools such as Google and Microsoft products that it may be impossible to prevent augmentation by AI in the research and writing process. And so, there might be a scale of use of AI. Do you put your entire manuscript into ChatGPT and have a new one generated, versus have you had small assistance from a variety of generative AI tools throughout your entire research, data analysis, and writing process? So if your journal or society has not yet come out with a firm decision, or maybe you're reevaluating your decision, some advice that was given at the CSE conference was that when discussing AI policies with editors, it might be useful to ask them about potential uses in their own fields and explore whether there are any situations or uses that may be acceptable. I think a lot of the policies that have come out this year have been pretty firm, but it may be that we need to have a broader discussion because we can't necessarily stop all of its use. When developing policies, journals might want to consider keeping them broad and general, noting that you won't be able to address every possible use of these technologies. And the other recommendation at CSE was just to be clear about expectations. For example, when, where, when, and how authors should describe the use of AI in their work, not necessarily as a co-author, but as a tool that they use during their research process. And that is the end of the presentation. I would be happy to take any questions.
All right, I think in the interest of time, we'll move on to Waseem.
Absolutely. Here we go.
Thanks, Alex and Mike. Let me share my screen. All right, I assume you can see my screen. Yeah, Alex, that was very informative. Thank you. I'm going to cover all the other service areas that we are exploring, using AI and using the various AI tools out there. Quick background, my name is Waseem Andrabi. I'm the VP of Learning Solutions for KGL, and I come from a books background, books and education background. So some of the examples that I'm going to talk about would cover more, books and education, areas that we are looking at. But we, obviously are exploring all the different service areas. We've been using AI in copy editing for a while. But obviously with the developments of, and the release of these large language models, we have, and our customers are interested in seeing how all of this can be used to make the processes more efficient. We want to make sure that we, explore how AI can help us make any process and every service that we offer more efficient and more, reduce, any errors and any manual intervention where we can. So that being said, I'm going to talk about the other areas other than peer review, obviously, you heard from Alex about, that we are investigating at this point. This is obviously a very rapidly evolving area, and we want to make sure, like everything else, this seems like something that is literally a transformative change within publishing and making sure that we are able to keep track of the developments in AI and making sure that any benefits that we can get out of using AI in any service areas can be passed on to our customers in discussion with them. There is no service where we are implementing AI without explicitly discussing any use cases, any case studies with our customers, if at all, where we find it useful. So, one of the various areas that we're looking at is obviously content creation, as in there is obviously a big debate about AI-generated content. We are definitely exploring to see what is possible and what is not possible. Can we create certain passages and citations and informational text, or SE and TE content or standalone features for some of the products that we work on, as in how does the content that's generated by these language models compare with what our subject matter experts are doing. So many of our customers have partnered with us to work on many of these aspects to see how successfully can we get close to or to the quality levels that a subject matter expert comes out with, right? The results are pretty mixed at this point. I can tell you that up front. As far as content creation is concerned, we are not close to generating content in any of the areas that we have tested, which would automatically be available for available for use. We've tested assessments as well, generating some assessment content. There are many learning management system and assessment systems that we use that have tools built in now that we have been noticing. Sometimes tools that are released, sometimes tools that are in beta stages, where you feed in some content and it will generate assessment items, for example. if you ask somebody on the technology side of things, they are thrilled with the results that they're getting. But if, when we show those results to our subject matter experts, there's a lot to be desired in terms of the quality of that content that is being generated at this point. That doesn't mean that quality wouldn't improve over time, and that's why we are constantly investigating the various AI models out there to see how things are evolving and how these models are improving. We're also trying to investigate things like plagiarism checks, translations, and adaptations as well from a content creation perspective. There's been some, again, mixed success from a media asset creation perspective as well. We're investigating, creating some initial sketches for illustrations that we work on, whether they're standalone illustrations or illustrations in various styles. We do a ton of animations and videos. So we're evaluating the quality of those animations that are generated and videos that are generated through AI, and the production of either music, background audio, as well as voiceover using AI. There are certain areas where there has been more success than others, voiceover being one of them. I think there are some tools available out there that are truly able to mimic human voice, while there are others that can't do it. So we also, in terms of storyboarding, you feed in a manuscript into one of some of the AI systems that have done a better job than others, and you get a storyboard that then our editorial team can then use and work with, and makes the process more efficient. Again, a lot of it is in exploratory stages. The use cases that we have found so far are things like anything, initial sketches, right? Interim stages of deliverables to customers. We feel that there is some scope, some tools out there that have successfully gotten to that stage where we can use them. Again, these are being used in pilot projects with some of our customers at this stage. From a digital production perspective, again, exploratory at this point for most of it, looking at, writing code snippets, JSON formatting, doing actual composition and evaluating the quality of the composition to avoid things like widows and orphans and the placement of images and those types of activities, HTML layout, and also schema markup generation. So again, all of this is in exploratory stage right now, for us. From a copy editing perspective, as in we've used NLP to edit and structure content, in Smart Edit, which is our, pre-editing, copy editing, XML generation tool for some time now. But we're evaluating the various, AI APIs available for integration into Smart Edit to even, to make the application even better, right? To enhance the features that are available within Smart Edit already. We're already analyzing text for grammar, spelling, style errors, but there are AIs out there that at least claim to make these functionalities better. Those are being evaluated at this point. Also making the copy editor's job easier, suggesting things like alternate phrasing to improve readability, checking for consistency in formatting and terminology, and also identifying plagiarism in the copy editing process. So these are, again, being investigated as we speak. Alt text generation is where we've seen a lot of interest from many of our customers. So we've done quite a bit of work in this area as well. We're trying to see if we can, if AIs that claim to identify, images within, say, an online system or a PDF file, and then come up with alt text for it. And we've been testing various APIs for over 10 months. The results, early on were, it was very questionable. I'm going to share some examples of alt text generated through various AIs over the last few months that we've been testing this. But we're evaluating this for technical, non-technical images, whether the AI is able to, detect the object, understand the scene that's being depicted in an illustration or in a graph or a chat, and then recognize the text that appears in an image as well as, a lot of alt text also needs to be contextual, with the text that's around that image. So can AI be used to generate contextual alt text? We truly believe that the best person to generate alt text is the author who's writing the content. But and we have very elaborate author guidelines that we send to our authors that we work with, and sometimes authors use them, sometimes they don't. So a lot of times we are being tasked to write those descriptions, and we use subject matter experts at this point. But our customers are, we're doing pilots right now with multiple customers to see what AI can and cannot do. And I'm going to share a few examples, of various types of figures that we used, over the last 10 months. And things have changed, and things have rapidly changed in terms of what these tools can and cannot do. So I'm going to share what we found early on. And when I say early on, I'm talking about early this year, to what we are looking at now in terms of what AI alt text, is being generated for various types of images, right? So this was the image that we were looking at. And this was like, in the January, February timeframe, we were looking at, whereas AI outputs for alt text, this was the best that something came up with, at least using the word drivers, a very wrong sense in this, for this image. But right now, this is what AI came up with. Again, fairly incorrect in terms of how it's describing what is going on in the image. I think what we have found is AI tends to fill gaps, when it doesn't, and this has been true with the various models that we've tested. When it doesn't understand what's going on in an image, it tries to, come up with a story that, that hopefully fits. And so our subject matter experts are obviously not happy with this sort of description. And so even though it became more descriptive, it's still quite questionable in terms of the description. This is another example, again, very basic, what was coming back from various models early in the year. Again, a lot more description, a lot more understanding of the text that is in the image. But again, it was just making things up in some cases. Like here it says the awareness section is on the left side of the seesaw and the consciousness section is on the right side of the seesaw. That is absolutely not the case. Awareness and consciousness were on the same side of this image. So again, I think the results that we were getting were not acceptable for these types of illustrations from an SME perspective. And we looked at this image. It was simpler to understand. Is what we thought. This is what AI was suggesting a few months ago, and this is what AI suggested now. And it actually gave more information than what was available around this illustration. Again, a subject matter expert has to review it to make sure that it's accurate and it's something that can be used. But some of it, the fact that it came up with the fact that these are Nexium capsules, which are a type of heartburn medication, that surprised our subject matter experts a little bit. But it was better than some of the other results that we saw. The most success that we saw was with simple graphs and charts. So something like this, for example, again, earlier in the year, this was the that one of the AI models came up with a pie chart that shows the percentage of people who are in the United States. We have no idea why it said that, because that's clearly what it is. It was not. But recently, this is the result that we got, which was a fairly good description of what was going on, within this chart. So again, a lot more testing is needed to verify that this is something that could be relied upon. But for simpler charts and graphs, we're definitely seeing better results than something that is more complex in terms of a concept that's being explained. We tested out, some medical illustrations. This is from a few months ago, a diagram of the parts of the human body, but this is more recent. Again, some additional information that's being added in there. Things like that the liver is a large, dark brown organ that is located in the upper right abdomen. Again, not information that was present in the illustration, but it's clearly trying to add to the information. Not something that we're supposed to do using alt text, but it's something that subject matter experts maybe can use. Again, things that we would keep evaluating over a period of time to see how the different models that we're testing are showing mixed results at this point. But that is true with anything new, any new technology out there. I remember when we started doing automated copy editing, or using automated tools for copy editing. Yeah, there were mixed results for that as well. So this is nothing different. So this is something that we will keep evaluating over a period of time. And as things get better, work with our customers to do pilot projects to see where it makes sense to use AI for any of these processes and services. Be happy to answer any questions at this point.
I know that you ran an interesting pilot this summer that I thought folks might be interested in hearing about. Can you just describe a little bit about, how the project started and, what it was?
Sure. First, I'm Gillian Shasby. No worries. The American Association of Neurological Surgeons. I'm the publications arm for them, and we are the Journal of Neurosurgery Publishing Group. We have 6 journals at the moment, 3 print and 3 online only. And as has been discussed previous, we have the same sort of concerns and need for preparation with regard to AI. And so I think luckily for us, as far as authorship and stuff, our stuff is so technical that AI is only kind of dumbing things down, so we don't have to worry about it from that perspective. But one of the things that we did want to think about was because our information is so dense and we publish so much of it, could we do an experiment with ChatGPT, for example? And happily, we were approached by one of our authors, Dr. Alex Winkler-Schwartz, who is a neurosurgery fellow and also got his PhD in virtual reality and AI in operative training. So he built this interface for us. And we basically did a very limited sort of proof of concept model with one article, but we put the text into this closed instance of so it uses the algorithm, but it is not bleeding over into the hive mind of ChatGPT. Perfect. And the concern obviously of hallucinations is a big deal, especially if you're thinking about patient treatment and care. And so we wanted to create an instance where if you asked it a silly question, it would just refuse to answer that question. And if there wasn't data within the paper, it would not attempt to extrapolate out. And then we basically used this not only to test if people were interested in using it, but also to sort of remind our readership that the reason we are doing this is we don't want them taking our papers and dropping them into ChatGPT and us losing that intellectual property. From a experimental standpoint, it was a mixed bag. We had good usage of it for the 2 months. We saw over 400 uses of the interface from 40, how many countries? 28 different countries. So that was pretty exciting that our users did take advantage. The one thing they didn't do, which was really a bummer, is that they did not give us any feedback on the survey that we asked them to fill out, which, knowing our population, is actually not a surprise, but was a disappointment. But overall, I think, what we saw is for very little inputs on our side, we tend to do things, paper clips and string the first time around to see if it works. And, Tom very generously donated his time to help us install this into our website. So we had links from the editorial and the article by Dr. Winkler Schwartz to this article that we put in. And then on this article, we had the conversational manuscript interface, which was toggleable, so people could get it out of the way if they didn't want to use it. And then we had a link to a survey there. We did all of that very, very quickly, which, is a testament to the PubFactory flexibility and Tom's magical powers. And I think what we would like to do going forward is find another partner and see if we can't expand to multiple manuscripts in one particular thing. Focus the journal that this particular article was in is a topic-based monthly journal, so it would lend itself really well to doing further experiments like this. And then the nice thing from a cost perspective, it cost us $110 in that was basically data usage costs. That was it. So it was a very good short-term, affordable way to kind of give this a try.
And did you have a sense for what kinds of questions you thought, it was sort of tuned for, given the user population, what was the expected use case for folks using it?
We were hoping, and unfortunately, that's another data point area. We weren't able to get data. He was not able to ensure confidentiality of IPs, etc. So we had to not gather information on what the questions were. But what we were hoping for is to see, sort of get an idea of use case. Is it more general users asking, what does nonlinear k-nearest neighbors mean? Define this in a more general language sense, translate this into another language. I tested out a few of those. It was still very technical. It was basically sort of cutting and pasting out. It wasn't necessarily generating language. So I think part of what didn't work with having such a narrow set of information is it didn't have enough information, enough disparate information to extrapolate. And that's what would, I think, our next step will be, is to see what sort of logic jumps does it make even within that confined space. We've had several papers on AI in neurosurgery submitted and published. We know that, similar to the example given earlier, that AI was tested with, and I think it's like the second year residency or some skills level test, and it did better than the average for residents of that time. But again, there is no logic leaps that can happen if you get in trouble. So it's still, certainly for neurosurgery, I think a very early stage, but the potentials will be very helpful because the volume is too much for any person to read. Even if they're doing a literature search, they're just not going to get deep. So we're definitely going to keep pursuing what we can do with this.
Great. Are there any questions from the audience? Well, thank you very much, Gillian. And I did include some links to Gillian's editorial and Dr. I can't remember his name.
Winkler Schwartz.
Winkler Schwartz, to his article about this as well. So if folks are interested in looking at those, they can follow those links. Well, thank you again.